Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we discuss day-to-day problems people face in their lives. Let's start with the video. My sister and I have a very strong relationship despite the age gap between us being rather large, being almost 15 years, but that hasn't decreased or undermined the value of our relationship in any way, shape, or form. My sister was married a long time ago and has seemingly been a happy family with beautiful kids that are as good as they come. Her relationship with her husband seems to be healthy and communicative, and it's just overall a lifestyle that one would look forward to and admire. Despite the fact that her marriage didn't necessarily start out perfectly, she was unhappy at the beginning of her marriage because she had married to escape, living in my house with my parents and under their control because they were always a source of trouble for her, and her mental health was declining. They weren't capable of understanding nor dealing with it, so they just ended up inflicting more damage on making her want to escape that environment. Nevertheless, the way things have changed for her and the life that she has built for herself has always been something that I admired and looked up to. Enough about her. I went to university for a business degree and ended up meeting some of the best and finest and most influencing people, leading up the path and the outcome that I'm now living in. For example, back when I was in university, I met this guy who I found so cute and who I had a little crush on in the beginning, but that changed into a very beautiful, deep connection and an unrealistically close kind of friendship that lasted all throughout university. After uni was over, I ended up changing states and taking my newly found education and applying it to start many businesses online in the most perfect and properly guided way, which ended up working out and blowing up on the internet, allowing me to fund other businesses and just increase my wealth immensely over a relatively short period of time. I was finally able to start paying off all of my debts and even extended my wealth to helping my parents with their responsibilities and solving many of their financial problems. And even considering starting stores and actual businesses back in my hometown, which was boring and tasteless and definitely needed my touch. Going back home to start my businesses and seeing how my family was a lot healthier now that their financial problems had dissolved made me long for that familial air once again, and I actually started considering moving in. I started apartment hunting and even ran into an old friend of mine that had started an interior design company. And I felt like my life had finally been steering in the right direction. When I walked into my friend's company, I soon realized that the guy from college I had met all those years ago and had a crush on was working there. We had a bit of a chit-chat and caught up on life, and I was soon to realize that his life was unfortunate as mine, and he wasn't able to do anything with his education, which was why he was working as an interior designer with his old friend. Nevertheless, it was almost as if the thing that had sparked all those years ago had clicked immediately when we started speaking, and we immediately kicked things off and went on multiple dates before we started dating. Around 2 weeks later, I was once again receiving the confirmation that things were steering in the right direction, and I ended up moving back home and tending to my businesses like I had planned a year or so later. My relationship with my boyfriend was as strong as it could get. We had a connection that was on a very deep level, and I felt like I genuinely belonged with him. I made him an extension to the person that I was and introduced him to my family members, and even made him my +1 to my sister's baby shower. To introduce him to her family-in-law, I would quickly realize that this would be one of the biggest turning points of my entire life because the moment my boyfriend and I walked into my sister's baby shower, her father-in-law's expression immediately changed and he became instantly disrespectful and flat out rude to me and my boyfriend. He then pulled me aside and asked me why I brought him into his son's household, and I told him that this was the man I was dating and the man that I loved, and I didn't understand why he was being so rude about things. He explained to me that he knew his life was failing after college as he was unable to do anything with his career, and he was probably just latching onto me for the money or the status. And he imperatively asked me to break up with him and find myself a man that deserved me and that cared for me and not my money or coins. I found it extremely strange as the father-in-law had never spoken to me in a tone outside of formal or surface level, and so this outrageous behavior from him made me question a lot of things, one of them including his sanity. I immediately rejected him as I told him I knew my boyfriend and we had been dating for over a year by then, and I would know as he was in it just for money as no one would be able to fake it for this long. Nevertheless, he didn't give up and he insisted on making me break up with him. He would constantly insinuate to my sister that I was unhappy in my relationship, and he would ask her to tell me to break up with him and suggest that she would be a terrible person if she didn't. She just let him manipulate me like that. He started calling on my phone calls. When he started calling me on my phone at random times of the day, asking me if I was with him, telling me that he had gone to church and prayed to God that we would break up, and even showed up at my work once or twice to make sure that I wasn't with him and start problems if I was. My demeanor with him started changing and I became more assertive and equally as rude. I even went to the extent of insulting him and telling him that he has no life. And if he did, he wouldn't be so invested in trying to tear up an innocent couple that had never done any harm to him. And honestly, looking back at things now, I really regret doing that because he's genuinely a kind person. The reason I say this is because a few months later, I ended up saying yes to my boyfriend's proposal to marriage and we started planning things out and officially considering a future together. And at that point, I still hadn't met his family because they lived in Spain and we had never been to Spain together. We ended up planning a trip to Spain a couple of months after our engagement. I thought it was an opportunity for us to get to meet his family. And although my fiancé strongly insisted that we don't go anywhere near his family, I told him that the only way for him to prove that he genuinely loved me and wanted to have a healthy family with me and kids that would have real connection with their grandparents. When we went to the house, I quickly realized that the reason he didn't want me to see his parents was because they were in poor conditions. Their house was falling apart and they were not the best people, to say the least. As soon as I walked in, the dad kept checking me out and smirking to his other son, speaking things in Spanish that I couldn't understand, but could definitely tell that they were hints about my physical appearance. And I became immediately uncomfortable being there. I would have even asked to leave had I not been imperatively told by the mother to stay with the husband while she took my fiancé to meet family members and get their blessings or something. When I sat down with his dad, he started drinking and drinking and drinking until he became blackout drunk, barely able to stand up or walk when he needed. So he started talking to me, and for that reason, I pulled out my phone and recorded what he was saying through an app that records and translates things immediately. And what I read on my phone screen that day changed my life entirely. Apparently, about 2 years ago, their son, aka my fiancé, had called his parents telling him that he had found this ignorant American girl who was helpless and emotional and needed a guy to be there for her and that he would. And that she was extremely rich and wealthy and he had no plans to marry that girl and that girl was me. Take all of the belongings that I have and then divorce me, take half of all my money and use that money to relieve himself of his parents' debts, his debts, and the debts that he had apparently dug himself into because of his drug addiction throughout university. That's why he was unable to do anything with his degree, and that's why his career ended up flopping. And although he blames everything on himself, he can't help but envy me and wants to destroy everything I've built, because how dare I start from the same place as him and get as far as I have? I ended up not seeing anything once we were in Spain, and as soon as we got home, I told him what I had found. I let him listen to the recording and told him that I will be taking my things and leaving the following day. Our engagement was off, and most importantly, our relationship was gone forever. I immediately called off the engagement and called my sister's father-in-law to let him know that I had finally put down the relationship, and when he asked me why, I explained to him that it was because of emotional reasons, and he insisted that I tell him, which leads me to believe that he was probably aware of what was happening and didn't want to tell me because he was either unsure or didn't know how to convince me. But whatever that may be, I really wish I had listened to him all that time ago and saved myself all the hurt and suffering that I had from this relationship. Not the a-hole. I believe the father-in-law was in on something that he didn't want to share because it's really uncommon to insist on breaking up a couple because you suspect that one of them might be chasing after the other for financial reasons. If he had any other reasons, he should have put it on the table instead of squirming around like that. It's definitely on him, not you. Not the a-hole. Despite your reaction being rather intensive and your motives being questionable, your blind trust in yourself and your relationship got you to this situation, as things would have ended long ago if you had gotten off your high horse. Nevertheless, the things you said were in general the right things to say and defend one's relationship from seemingly non-trustable harm. Next story. I, 24 male, am dating a woman, 26 female, who we'll refer to as A. For some context, I drive a 2019 Nissan GT-R. It was my dream car growing up, and I told myself, when I made it and made enough to afford it financially and not have it be everything in my bank account, I work a job making close to 6 figures, and I've learned to invest in stocks and crypto. I've made some good money, but of course, stocks and crypto are never promised and could crumble tomorrow. My girlfriend drives a 2018 BMW M3, and it's a very nice car in good condition with no issues under the hood. The other day, she suggested I should order her a new Tesla for Christmas. The one she wanted before I put work into my car was more than my car had cost. Of course, I'm not saying I don't or won't spend money on her, but she drives a very nice car that I paid for. She pays the insurance and for the maintenance and upkeep. That is still a luxury car that drives well. I argued with her that I wasn't going to drop 6 figures on a car when I'm looking at buying as a house. Yes, even though we're under the dating title, we have extremely strong love for each other. Crap, she has my name tattooed on her. Not my idea, and while I love her and I'm always buying her what I think she'd like or told me she liked as gifts, I just think it's financially irresponsible to buy a new car for no reason. She tried insinuating I was being cheap because I spent more money on my car than I did hers, and my car has work in it. She tried accusing me of not loving her and only giving a F about myself. I genuinely don't think I'm the a-hole for spending my money that I work for on whatever I'd like. Yes, she works a job that she finds ideal and went to school for and enjoys, and I'm not pocket watching her. Am I the a-hole for refusing to buy her a new car? Edit. Just to clarify, when I do the math, I automatically factor in taxes because I don't consider it my money or when I spend on something. It's not whatever the sticker price is. It's with taxes and fees included in my brain. What I should have specified is that I pull in close to 6 figures after taxes. My apologies for any miscommunication on my end. Edit 2. Some comments were suggesting I show her the thread. While I thought I was in the wrong, I didn't think I'd get an overwhelming amount of people pretty much in agreement with each other that her actions are gold diggerish. I don't know if it'll make her more offended or the slap in the face that she needs. Not the a-hole. She is manipulative and psycho. She tattooed your name on her as a way to manipulate you and make you feel like you owe her staying together, and insinuates you're cheap as another way to manipulate you and make you feel guilty. She's nothing more than an emotional and financial parasite and always will be. If you stay with her, you will effing regret it because she will get worse. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole about not buying a car for your girlfriend. But if you make under $100,000 and don't own your home, buying a $100,000 car, or any depreciating asset for that matter, is a really dumb financial move. Find a financial planner to help you make the best choices for your future. Oh, and ditch the girlfriend. If she's that entitled already, it's not going to get any better. Next story. My boyfriend Adam and I have been together for 4 years. We met my freshman year of college and have been living together for a little over a year. One of the topics I brought up when we moved into our new apartment was that I wanted to eventually adopt a cat. We both love animals, and Adam used to take care of some strays that lived on his street, so it's not like he secretly hates cats or anything. Our situation isn't ideal for an animal right now, but I thought we would be looking into getting one after I graduate college. I've lived with cats my entire life. Spending the rest of my life without owning one is probably the closest I come to a deal breaker. The issue is, Adam is allergic to cats, so I brought up the idea of Adam doing exposure therapy to try and get rid of his allergy so that we can adopt a cat, which Adam said he would consider in the future. This was several months ago. Now, my last semester is approaching. I reminded Adam that he should start allergy treatments soon so that in the next 6 months we could be ready to adopt. Adam apparently changed his mind and is completely against doing any sort of allergy treatments. He states that he doesn't want to put his body through any unnecessary medicine and is worried about any side effects. He says that we can either get a hypoallergenic cat, which really isn't a thing aside from a sphinx, which he also refuses to get because they're too ugly, or we can just wait until we live somewhere with a space for a dog. This is the part where I might be an a-hole. I reminded Adam that I went on birth control because of our relationship and have been on it for 4 years, completely taking on the burden of preventing any accidents. I had really bad side effects with the first kind I used, so I switched to an IUD, which is better, but left me unable to get out of bed for the first 3 days I had it. The initial pain was so bad. I told him he was acting like a hypocrite and was more than happy to watch me go through all kinds of pain and discomfort for the sake of our relationship. But as soon as it's his turn, he backs out. I'm taking some space right now to calm down, and I'm not sure if this is as big of a red flag as I thought it was. I know it's wrong for me to try to strong-arm him into doing a treatment he doesn't want to do, but I feel like he doesn't have any appreciation for what I put my body through while sorting out my birth control by not being willing to do something that carries 1 out of 1,000 of risks or side effects. Edit. So I don't have to keep clarifying this in the comments. I did choose to go on birth control, although I wouldn't have if I wasn't dating anybody. However, I didn't get an IUD, which would have been my first choice because Adam was worried about the strings. I got an arm implant, which I had taken out after really terrible side effects, and switched to an IUD as it's the lowest hormone option. So basically, a year of month-long periods and sudden suicidal ideation was because I chose a birth control that Adam preferred over my first choice. Edit 2. Thank you to everyone for offering alternative hypoallergenic breeds. I thought the only definitive ones were hairless cats and other breeds just cause mild reactions. I'll definitely look into them, although I might have to reevaluate my stance on adopt, don't shop. Hold on. So you switched to an IUD and he wasn't concerned about the risks to you. He was concerned the string may hurt him. What the F? I'll just casually ignore the many birth control risks to original poster, but what if I touch something I can't even feel? What about me? Meanwhile, however, I'm going to ignore the fact original poster is unable to move for 3 days. Yes, he's selfish, but you must have worked this out by now. Yes, that is a red flag that anything that impacts him is an issue while you're just meant to suck it up. Not the a-hole. He agreed to this. It's not unreasonable to hold yourselves to the same level of expectations. People really underestimate how badly birth control and wonky hormones can affect you physically and mentally. I think you have a point. You've made sacrifices for your relationship and prioritized his preference in birth control over your own comfort, but he has backed out of a previous agreement. It doesn't sound like you're leveraging your birth control use for taking his allergy shots either, like some people are applying. You're just making a simple comparison in your willingness to take on side effects for your relationship. He's allowed to change his mind about allergy shots, but you're also allowed to change your mind about your relationship, not the a-hole.